Hi guys, welcome to day 5. Upon entering the class, we saw this screen, okay, kind of just a warm up to get you started. So your directions were to write an equation for the given scenario and then solve for the variable, okay. Some students automatically knew what the answers were, okay, or what the answer was, okay, because one student answered, but then I told him, okay, we'll go back and let's try to write an equation first. Okay, so if you wrote an equation, your equation should have been 3x plus 5 equals 20. Okay, we don't know what the number is, so we call it variable x, right? X is multiplied by 3, so that's how come I got the 3x. And then it's increased by 5, so 3x plus is increased 5 equals 20. So if you set that up and work through it, you should be getting that your number is equal to 5. So x should equal 5 on that one. Okay. Before getting started on our notes and the new topic for the day, we did a solving equations recap on the quizzes that we took last class, and we went over the 2 most missed questions. Okay. Okay, one of the most missed questions was number 6. Okay. Let's see here. So our first step always is to split our problem down the equal sign. Okay. Since we haven't learned distributive property yet, this one I'm going to take it and divide by this negative 12 that is being multiplied, right? So negative 12 is being multiplied. So the opposite of multiply is division. I drew my fraction line. I'm going to divide by a negative 12. Okay, remember what I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So I'm taking my 144 and dividing it by a negative 12 also. Negative 12 divided by negative 12 is 1. So if I do 1 times x plus 5, I am left with just my x plus 5. Okay, that is equal to what I have here on this left-hand side, which is a negative 12. Okay, so now I'm left with a 1 step, right? I have to do one more step to get to my answer. So I look at the side that has my variable. It's still on the right-hand side. I'm going to do opposite operation. So instead of plus 5, I'm going to have minus 5 on both sides of my equal sign, right? These cancel out or simplify to be 0, right? So then now I'm left with x equals, okay, on this side over here, I have negative 12 minus 5. Remember, if you have a negative and you are subtracting, you're going more to the negative side. Okay, so this one should be negative 17. We always box our final answers. So we should have been selecting B. Okay, the next one that we missed the most was number 14. I'm going to pick a different color this time. I'm going to split up my problem. I want to go straight to my side that has the variable, which is my left-hand side. I am going to start by removing the number that is alone, right? This 6v is paired with the v, right? This negative 6 is paired with the v. This 10 is over here by itself, okay? When I look at that 10, I know that it's just a positive 10. I don't have to see the plus sign, but I don't see a negative, okay? Because I don't see a negative sign, that makes it a positive 10. Opposite of positive 10 would be minus 10. So whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So 10 minus 10 would simplify to be 0. So now I'm going to bring down everything that I'm left with. Okay, when I combine these two, I get a negative 114. It was already negative, right? Then I went more negative, so it kind of just combined with that one and gave me a negative 114. Okay, so I'm still on my left-hand side, right? I still have my variable on that side. -6 times v, so opposite of times or multiply would be divide, right? I have to divide by that -6, so that way those can simplify to 1, so I'm left with v equals negative divided by negative gives me a positive, so I know my answer should be a positive 19. Forgot one step. We should have been picking A. Okay, the next things we talked about after that was our learning target and our success checklist. Okay, our learning target for today was I can solve equations using the distributive property and by combining like terms. Okay, our success checklist, or the steps that we need to follow for mostly every problem, are as follows. So we should be splitting our equation down the equal sign. We should simplify each side as necessary. So I mean, after we split up our problem, right, and we're given a left side and a right side, we need to be simplifying by distributing or combining like terms before we start rearranging our problem. Okay, so once you complete the simplifying process, you're going to move on to using opposite operations, to rearrange by getting variables on one side and your numbers on the other side. Okay? I cannot read that last one. Let me move. Okay, and after we've rearranged, our last step would be to solve for the variable using opposite operations. Okay? From here, we moved on to our journal. Okay, the notes or the topic that we talked about was combining like terms. So we opened our journal to the next clean page, which should have been next to the distributive property. We talked about what combining means, what terms mean, and then we talked about simplify versus solve. Okay, if you open up your journal to your next clean page, it should be on the right-hand side next to distributive property. Okay, and our title for today is combining like terms. Okay, so when we hear the word combining, this really means that we are adding or subtracting. Okay, we're just putting it together by addition or subtraction. Okay, when we hear like terms, these are terms of the same type. Okay, and by type, I mean numbers or variables. Okay, so whatever you're given in your equation will either fall under the numbers category or the variables category. So for example, if you see 5x, this one looks deceiving because it has a number and a variable, right? Well, this would technically fall under the variables category because this number 5 tells me how many x's I have, right? So this 5x would really be under my variables section. Okay? Something important to note, right? These next two things. Number one, numbers are with numbers, right? So when we're lining up in our equation, numbers have to be aligned with numbers, okay? Variables are with variables. Okay, so let's do an example. We have a 7p minus 4 plus 3p plus 2. Okay, this one is an expression because I do not have an equal sign. I'm not actually solving for anything. Expressions, we just simplify. Okay, so combining like terms, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Okay, and my terms are split by operating symbols. So if I have 3 operating symbols, I know I have 4 terms. Okay? So I can combine this 7p with this 3p. So if I add 7 plus 3, and the plus tells me to add, right? So I have 10p, right? I've combined those, so they're no longer up there, right? All I have up there now is that -4 and that +2. So -4 plus 2 would leave me with -2. Remember, numbers with numbers, variables with variables. I cannot combine this p with this regular number 2, so I'm done. Okay, we moved on to the topic of simplify versus solving something. When we simplify, we either combine, distribute, or we make it easier, I like to call it. Easier for ourselves to understand, right? We're making it shorter, the process. When we are solving something, we use opposite operations to get our variable alone. So to get x equals, for instance, we are solving for that variable. Okay, when you see the word solution, and we may or may not see it already, solution is the value that makes a true statement. Okay, so for example, I'm just going to give you a real basic one. If you had x plus 1 is equal to 3, and I told you x equals 2 is what I want to check if it's a solution to my equation or not. Okay, so we go ahead and plug x in, right? We plug in 2 wherever x is. So if I plug a 2 for this x value, 2 plus 1 equals 3. I'm going to simplify the left-hand side. 2 plus 1 is 3. It is equal to 3, right? It makes a true statement. So yes, x equals 2 is a solution.